everybody, welcome to the May Ask Tom Database Security Office Hours. My name is Richard Evans, and I'm your host. I'm joined by my colleague and friend Bettina, who's the product manager of Oracle DataSafe. She's going to take us through Oracle DataSafe today. This call is being recorded, and you can find the recording after maybe a week or so at bit.ly/AskTomDBSec. We've got 3+ years of recordings out there at this point, so there's probably a recording on something database security related that you're interested in, so go check out our recordings. This is the public session. If you have not joined us before, welcome. We appreciate you being here. You can sign up on the Ask Tom platform. We do this session on the second Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. U.S. Central. So regardless of daylight savings, we try to keep it consistent with 10 a.m. U.S. Central. At the beginning, we'll do some announcements, we'll have a technical topic, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. You're welcome to put your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom at any time. If we can get to them as we go, we will. If not, we'll answer them at the end. Again, it doesn't have to be related to the topic. You're welcome to ask any questions on database security you want. Can't guarantee I'm going to be able to answer them, but we'll do our best. And you can always reach out to me after the session if you want to continue the conversation. All right, this month's announcements. So I always try to put our links in this GitHub repository, and I'll share it in the chat right now. Okay, so I keep this thing up to date. That way you don't have to try to write down the links or capture these as we go. And then I've done it for about 8 or 9 months now. And so you'll be able to go back and watch a video and then go look at the related links from the topic. So I put notes, I may put some sample scripts out there, links to LiveLabs, documentation, sample code we use, things like that. So check out our GitHub repository. As always, patching. Patcher was released a couple weeks ago for all platforms. Please, please, please try to keep yourself up to date on patches. We have some customers that are so good at it, they're patching monthly now. So there's monthly patching available as well. If you are patching and you're using like RAC, a real application cluster environment, check out Fleet Patching and Provisioning to help you with grid infrastructure patching, as well as the Oracle Database Home patching. There's some modern techniques out there that you can use. Mike Dietrich's blog on patching and upgrading is really kind of the source of information for everybody, me included. So take a look at Mike Dietrich's blog for anything related to patching or updating your Oracle database. As we move toward Oracle Database 23C, traditional auditing is being de-supported. So we want you to utilize Unified Audit instead. So what we've done is we've created a My Oracle support note, and that's what this QR code will take you to, that'll kind of walk you through the traditional to Unified Audit syntax. So what you can do is it'll take your existing audit, your traditional audit policies, or audit records, and it'll convert them into the new syntax. Now, it's not very detail focused because it doesn't know what you want to do with your audit policies. So as you make this transition to Unified Audit, it's a good time to kind of rethink your audit policy. Like, what do we want to get from our audit data? Are we getting too much? Are we getting too little? Are we not getting the right information that we're looking for here? Unified Audit can help you with that because you can include conditions like, sys context. Hey, we only want to audit if HR is not logging in from the app server. We could do that. Maybe we want to do particular components, right? Data pump. Maybe we want to do top level. We just want to audit that the procedure was executed, that it ran. We don't necessarily need to audit the contents of the selects or insert or updates that occurred within that procedure. Or maybe we have exceptions where we say, hey, we want to audit all of this except for. You can do that with Unified Audit. So we encourage you to go take a look at this traditional to Unified Audit syntax converter, and then build upon that to update your auditing capabilities, okay? Now, one of the things you can also do is you can run that script, and you could do this within our Oracle Database Security LiveLabs. So you can go out to our LiveLabs environment with that QR code. There's probably 40 to 45 database security related audit or database security related LiveLabs out there. And at least half of them you can run on our sandbox. So they'll have this green button that says run on LiveLabs sandbox. You can run that on Oracle's dime. You don't have to do anything besides provide your email, maybe set up a SSH key, and then you can get 2, 3, 4 hours of hands-on training with database security products, from Key Vault to Database Vault to TDE to data masking to data safe. So lots of things that you can do on our platform on our dime. So please take advantage of Oracle LiveLabs. One of the things we've released recently that we're really excited about is this one-way TLS lab. Now we're working on getting the green button out there so you can do that on our dime, but you can go out and check out this LiveLab. So you can do one-way TLS on Oracle 19C, create your own self-signed root certificate, create a database certificate, have it signed, configure TLS, and then verify it. So really cool stuff. We've already got one out there on native network encryption, and we've been getting a lot more requests for TLS. So this is going to be TLS 1.2 on 19C. When 23C free, you can do it on 23C free as well and see TLS 1.3 if you want. But this is out there for you to utilize. For Oracle Data Safe, we've got 4 labs on LiveLabs, 2 which I want to highlight here for you. The getting started with Oracle Data Safe fundamentals on the left-hand side there is where you should start. That QR code will take you to the LiveLabs page. It'll show you how to register the autonomous database, collect and generate audit activity, alerts, kind of assess the configuration of your database and your users, and then discover and mask sensitive data. So it kind of walks you through the high level of Oracle Data Safe. And Bettina and Jody, the tech writer, have done a fantastic job at keeping this up to date. So when they're adding new features to Oracle Data Safe, you're going to see that reflected in that LiveLab eventually as well. So the one on the right is good because if you're doing databases on-prem and you want to use Oracle Data Safe to monitor those and maybe collect audit data, alerts, configuration, security, user assessments, or discover and mask sensitive data, we have a lab there that'll help you with that. So it'll show you how to register an on-prem database. And then we'd encourage you to go back to that Data Safe Fundamentals lab and then follow that, because that has all the gee whiz cool new features that Data Safe has. So check out these 2 live labs. They're available to you on the Oracle LiveLabs platform. Database 23C free. So what, 2 months ago or so, we released Oracle Database 23C free developer release. It's basically the next iteration of Oracle XE. If you remember the XE from 11 and 18, you can get your hands on this now by going to oracle.com/23C free. You can download an Oracle virtual appliance, an OVA. You can download the RPMs and install it on your own machine. Get your hands on Oracle Database 23C before it becomes generally available or available in the cloud or on premises. It's mostly what's going to be there in 23C free or 23C when it's released. So you can get your hands on early and provide us feedback. There's a forum. So when you go to that URL, you're going to see, a way to get help. There's an Oracle forum out there that we're actively monitoring. So if you're trying out any of the database security capabilities or features, let us know in the forum, like, hey, this is working, this isn't working, this is neat, this is what I would do with it. Give us some ideas on how you're utilizing new capabilities, especially the new one that's out there with Oracle SQL Firewall. So you guys probably know that we've got Audit Vault and Database Firewall. Well, at 23C, we kind of take that firewall component and we've embedded it into the Oracle database. So you can control SQL statements, kind of restrict connections, log and block unauthorized SQL. All that's going to be available. And it's available in the 23C free developer release for you to kick the tires on now. So this QR code will take you to a GitHub repository where you can download this hands-on demonstration script to run against the 23C database. So give that a try. There's a demo video there as well. And I've put these links in our GitHub repository, so I'll share that again. So you should be able to go out to my GitHub repository, look for May 2023, and then find the SQL Firewall links, demo videos, and everything for you to give SQL Firewall a try. And again, go to the forum, give us some feedback, let us know how you're utilizing it, what's working, what's not, and give us some feedback so we can improve the product. Awesome. All right. With that, let's get over to today's technical topic. We're going to talk about Oracle DataSafe. Bettina, over to you.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Today we want to talk about DataSafe and specifically about all the updates we have rolled out this year. So really talking about all the enhancements we have done 2023. My name is Bettina Schaeumer, so thank you for joining. I'm the product manager for Oracle DataSafe. And for the live session here, we also have Rich and Pedro and Russ on the line who can help with questions and answers. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them on the Q&A and we will get to them. What I'm planning to do for today is just give you a quick intro into DataSafe in case it's been a while since you heard about DataSafe. Just want to, give a quick introduction so that we all know what we're talking about. Then just briefly talk about some common use cases that we're seeing from our customers, and then really focus most of the session on the recent enhancements, really showing you what we have improved this year, what are some new features we added, and then obviously where you can find more details. And Rich already showed you some of the LiveLabs, and I'll talk more about that as well. Good. When you look at the media, obviously you see, almost every week there's another media breach or another data breach in some of the, big companies. We're seeing, employee data, customer data was breached. So cybercrime definitely is picking up. I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We had one of our cities, Oakland, that went through the media. They were under a ransomware attack. It took them months to get, their systems back up and running. It was a real issue for them getting, really, into back into action and letting, their people who live in Oakland access to their systems again. Obviously, whenever you're attacking or whenever someone attacks internal systems, it's typically the database, right? There you have all the concentrated information. It's easy once you have access there. You can, get to employee data, you can get to customer data, and so on. On the other side, we also see there's more and more data privacy, data protection laws coming into place. GDPR was one of the most prominent one a couple of years ago in Europe. Here in California, we have the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, and also across the states and across the globe, we see more and more of these laws and regulations coming into place, which simply means now you really have to understand much better where your sensitive information is stored, how to protect it, that you're not exposing it, in non-productive environments and so on. As Oracle, obviously, we're trying to build our solutions as secure as possible. Even with the autonomous database, for instance, we're always making sure we're encrypting the data, security patches are applied, administrator cannot snoop into the data. And I'm pretty sure even if you're not using autonomous, you're doing the same thing. You're encrypting your data at rest, in motion, you're applying the patches, etc. But there's still something what we call the customer responsibility left, right? Only you can know which users have to be on your or accessing your data, what privileges they need to do their daily task. You need to make sure your database is securely configured, that you're not leaving any unnecessary risk open, that your configuration is not drifting after a while, right? How do you make sure nobody's changing the configuration? You might have to follow certain regulations and audit certain activities or certain tasks, right? So who are your highly privileged users? What do you need to audit? How long do you need to keep your audit records and so on? Sensitive data, we talked about that. Where is your sensitive data stored? How many values do you have? How do you protect it? Are you making sure that nobody can mess with that data, especially also see data or exposing data in your non-productive environment? And to help with all these tasks, that's why we introduced DataSafe. DataSafe, we introduced it in 2019, so it's already 4 years old. So it's not a new solution, it's really a mature solution by now. And what we're trying to do is really giving you a unified control center for database security, identifying, any risks that we see with the configuration of your database, making sure you understand the users who are accessing the data, and then the data itself, how sensitive is it, is the data protected, etc. And what we're trying to do also is really making it easy for you, making sure you don't need any special security expertise to use DataSafe, but give you immediate insights here. When we started with DataSafe, obviously we were concentrating on the Oracle Cloud databases running in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So that's where we started. But nowadays you can use DataSafe really for all flavors of the Oracle database, no matter if it's running in the cloud, on premises, cloud at customer, or also on any third-party cloud. So if it's running on Azure or AWS, you can also monitor those Oracle databases. And because DataSafe is a cloud solution, obviously we're providing new updates, new enhancements. Some of them we're talking about today on a regular basis. We're typically pushing out new things every week or every other week. But here are the main 5 features that we cover right now. So we have security assessment, which helps you quickly evaluate the security posture of your database. It also helps you with identifying any configuration drift. You can set up notifications to let you know if something has shifted, if something has changed in your configuration, to make it really as secure as possible. And if you think about it, in the Oracle database, there are probably hundreds of settings that might impact the security of your database. So we're doing all these checks for you automatically. You're getting a very comprehensive report. If you ever use DBSat on premises, that is very similar to what we're doing here. But here the big advantage is you're getting a fleet-wide view. You're seeing exactly where we found high risk, medium risk, low risk across your landscape, which databases are impacted by which risk. And we also give you more information on how to remediate those risks. Then we have user assessment, which helps you identify highly privileged users. You can, obviously review which roles and privileges are granted to these users. We have that also integrated with the user activity auditing, where you can then also check what these users are doing on the database. One new enhancement we've done here for user assessment, I'll talk later about. There is a new feature called User Profile Insight that we have set up. But also here with user assessment, you can set up what we call a baseline. So once you have a good understanding of who your users are, what their privileges are, you can set that as a baseline. And if something changes, you can also set up notifications. You can subscribe to that, where we then tell you if there's a new user on the database. You can review their grants. If an existing user, the grants have changed, if any users were deleted, so you get that in an overview report as well. Then we have activity auditing. Here we, first of all, you can now collect and store your audit records across your fleet centrally in DataSafe. So if you ever have an incident and you need to analyze what happens, you can now look at the data across your fleet here. You don't have to check each audit record from each database separately. And also sometimes when we work with customers, they're just getting started. They don't necessarily know where to get started with their audit profiles. So we also have best practices here in DataSafe, showing you, some audit policies that we're recommending. You can enable them from DataSafe and then provision to your database. Once you have your data in DataSafe, we have predefined reports. You can schedule reports. You can create your own custom reports on top of that, or also set up alerts based on the audit data to get notified if something specific happens. Then when we come to sensitive data, we have the sensitive data discovery. So first of all, we need to understand where we're storing sensitive information. And data discovery here in DataSafe provides over 150 predefined sensitive data types. And they're in all different categories, if it's healthcare, if it's personal identifiable information, if it's financial information. So we have 7 different categories here that help you understand the data. If you ever have a company-specific identifier that we might not deliver out of the box, you can always extend that and create your own sensitive type as well. And then what we give you is what we call a sensitive data model, where you then see exactly where we found sensitive information, in which schema, in which table, in which column, and what type of information we found there. Then when it comes to non-productive environments, we also offer you with data masking, and this is really static data masking. So what that means is once we know where sensitive information is stored, let's say you have social security numbers or you have credit card information there, you can go ahead and mask that data. Typically, if you want to use your non-productive environments for testing, for development, you still need realistic looking data, but it should be obscured. So that's where data masking comes in. It masks the data before you let your users onto the system. I also wanted to share just some common use cases that we're seeing in our customer base. If you're interested to learn more about what other customers are doing, we have a lot of customer references. We also have customer testimonials. So if you go to our homepage, DataSafe homepage, we also have linked all the customer success stories there, the video testimonials. So it might be also worth checking those out. But talking about use cases, I think one of the most common use cases we're really seeing is customers want to harden the security posture of your database. And from the features we talked about, obviously, you want to get instant insight into any configuration that may introduce unnecessary risk, right? Making sure your database is securely configured, detecting any configuration drift. So that's where security assessment helps you with this use case. Then you also want to reduce the risk from users, coming from users, really making sure they only have the roles and privileges they need for their daily task, right? Seeing what potential risk a user could bring if, any of those accounts would get compromised or any of those users would go rogue. So really understanding that with user assessment. And then obviously you also want to monitor database activity and making sure nothing, unusual is happening. So that's where the activity auditing helps you with this use case as well. Then I talked about that already, right? Minimizing the risk of exposing sensitive information in your non-productive environment. So if you have an environment for development, for testing, for training, here definitely you need to understand what sensitive data do you have in your environment, how can you protect it in those environments, and really mask the data before you let anyone onto those systems. The same is true when you're developing an application. You have your development environment, and now you want to make that productive. Obviously, while you're developing, typically your developers have broad privileges. They can, do a lot of things in the database. You typically don't care about protecting certain tables more than other tables. But now, if you want to take your application from development to production, there are a couple of things that you want to do, right? You need to understand where my sensitive data is stored, who has access to that data, right? Is the security configuration that we talked about, is that really secure, right? Is there any changes that you need to do now that you want to make this productive? Who are your highly privileged users? Do you need to enable certain regulations or certain measurements to track those user activities, right? What are the audit policies that you need to have in your environment for a productive environment? So these are all the tasks that DataSafe can help you with then. And then last but not least, if you have audit records, you might have to follow, depending on the industry you're in, you might have to follow certain audit regulations, or you might have corporate policies where that require you to keep your audit records for a certain amount of time. So with DataSafe, what we're helping you here is obviously you can centrally collect and manage your audit data. You just let us know how long you want to keep your audit records in DataSafe, and then we manage that for you. You can set it to 2 years or 5 years or 7 years, and then DataSafe manages that automatically for you. If you're just getting started with audit policies, as I mentioned earlier, then DataSafe also has recommendations here on the audit policies that you can enable in your database to get started. Good. With that, talking about Oracle databases, I mentioned that. So basically, we're supporting all flavors of the Oracle database. In terms of pricing, DataSafe is included for all our cloud databases and cloud at customer databases. So if you have any autonomous databases, if you have any Oracle-based databases or Exadata on public cloud, DataSafe is included. If you have cloud at customer databases, DataSafe is included. And then if you have on-premises databases or any databases on compute, and they could be running in OCI or any other cloud environment, then there is a monthly charge for those databases. Also included with every single database is if you're using the audit collection, there's 1 million audit records per database per month already included. So only if you generate more than 1 million audit records in a given database in a month, there would be a minimal charge. And as you can see, it's 10 cents for 10,000 records. So even if you have an additional 1 million records, we're talking $10 here for that month. With that, I'm already going over to the enhancements we've done, or what has changed. So one of the things we have done is we introduced a tiered pricing for those on-premises databases and databases on compute, where we have a monthly charge per database. So this was introduced in April, so last month. And what we did here is, depending on how many databases you register in DataSafe, there is a tiered pricing. So the first 100 databases are charged at $200 per database per month. That's the price we always had in DataSafe. But now, if you're adding more databases, if you're over 100 databases, those databases will be charged with $150 per month. If you're over 300 databases, those will be charged with $100. And if you're over 500 databases, then we're charging that with $50 per database per month. So this is new since April. So if you register, hundreds of databases, you have this advantage of the tiered pricing. Another thing we introduced this year is the support for autonomous database on Exadata Clouded Customer. We already supported Exadata Clouded Customer, but now we're seeing more and more customers also leveraging the autonomous database, obviously in the Clouded Customer environment, and we're also supporting that now in DataSafe. What we're doing here for an autonomous database is similar to what we're doing in OCI. So we're doing all the user management for the DataSafe service account. So we're unlocking your user. We're granting privileges to the DataSafe service account here so that you don't have to deal with that. And then we're offering different connectivity options. So if you have a fast connect or a VPN connect set up between your Clouded Customer environment and OCI, then you can leverage that. And we're connecting then via so-called DataSafe private endpoint to your database. Or if you don't have those connections or you don't want to use them for DataSafe, then we have a DataSafe on-premises connector that you can install in your environment. It's a lightweight installation, needs to be installed on a Linux host. Typically takes 10-15 minutes to install that. And that connector will then open up a TLS tunnel from your environment to OCI. For the registration, we're offering you a wizard that really guides you through the entire process, also taking care of the connectivity options. If you're using a private endpoint, for instance, it also takes care of setting up the security rules for you that you need for the connection and so on. So really helping you through the entire process. Another thing where we extended our support is now the US government cloud. So DataSafe is now also available in the US government cloud. We were already on the UK Gov cloud, and now we added the US government cloud here as well. And as you can see, we're available here on the US Gov West and East, so in Phoenix and Ashburn. That's where DataSafe is now available as well. For auditing, we introduced a new dashboard called the Audit Insights dashboard. And let me show you that live. And then we'll talk more about it. Let me find my screen here. Okay. So if you're in DataSafe and if you haven't logged on to DataSafe in a while, where you find it in the OCI console is here under Oracle databases. And then you see DataSafe database security here with the different features. In DataSafe, if I go here to activity auditing, you see here on the left, we have a new entry that's called the Audit Insights. And as soon as that comes up, and let me limit it here to one of my compartments so that we're seeing a little bit limited data here. So what you're seeing here then is when you get started with auditing, a lot of times we're getting requests on, hey, I now turned on my audit policies. I'm generating a lot of records. I don't know where those records are coming from. So customers are asking us a lot on how they can fine tune the audit policies when they get started. And the Audit Insights is really a great help with that, where you can see exactly where are you creating the most volume, in which targets databases, in which audit policies are creating most of those records, which schemas are monitored mostly, or which objects in the database are monitored mostly, and so on. So here, this is what you're seeing then. For instance, here on top, we're now seeing, hey, most of my audit records are actually created in the user activity policy. There's another one here on a different database. So this is where most of my data is coming from. If I want to look at the rest, you can always deselect, for instance, the big ones here, so that you see how the rest is, distributed here. You see where, which schemas are creating the most audit volume, or, are monitored the most, the objects in the database that are monitored the most. We also see, where the people are connecting from which client host, when they generate the audit records, which database users are generating the most records here, etc. But especially for fine-tuning, what is very helpful now we see here, and let me select those again. Now we see here where, which audit records are bringing in, which audit policies are bringing in the most records. Especially if I want to fine-tune that now for my database, I can just select my single database here and then see that for that specific database. So really helping me in seeing where the audit records are generated and where I can maybe do some fine-tuning, maybe excluding certain users or being more specific in which objects I want to monitor, etc. So as soon as this comes back, which shouldn't take too long, I can see in my database, it's definitely the user activity that's generating the most records. And then the other ones are really small ones. So if I ever want to tune something and I want to have less noise here, then this is the one where I probably would get started and check what I'm monitoring here. And same for the other ones here. The next one, for auditing, we also introduced new predefined reports here in DataSafe. So you have a new report here on common user activity. So really seeing, what is a common user really, doing in my PDB here. You see these audit records. We created a new report for database errors. So you're seeing here, there's a new column also for these Aura errors. But this specific report just shows you all the errors that happened in your database, where you can then see, what happened here. Did you have any syntax errors, constraint violations, permission errors that happened, any failures on your hardware, etc. That would show up in this report. The next report we introduced is the data extraction activity report. So here we're now showing you activities from RMAN or data pump. So if there's something going on and you're not aware of that, if someone is extracting, thousands of records, that obviously is a security risk, and you want to know about it. So this is why we have a dedicated report for that now. And then we also introduced a new report on sensitive data activity. I'll show you that later as well. That now shows you exactly where in my databases was sensitive data accessed, who accessed that sensitive data, and you see all the details here, so that you can monitor also if only authorized people who should see this sensitive data are accessing it. Then when it comes to the audit reports, we also made some changes or enhancements here on the filter options. So we are introducing an advanced filter option, or we introduced that in February, actually, using the SCIM query language here. And as you can see, we build it that way that we're helping you here with drop downs for, what are available operators, what are the fields that you can query here, really helping you build this query. You can then also store that as a custom report, so you don't have to build your query every time from scratch. So super helpful. One of the main reasons we introduced it was because with the basic filters that we have, you could combine certain conditions with AND. We didn't have the opportunity for all conditions, so this is a big advantage here with the advanced filter options. And as you can see, the dropdowns make it really easy for you to build those queries here. The next one we introduced, I mentioned that briefly. So under user assessment, you now find also the user profile insight. And let me also go back to the live system here and show you the user profile insight. So here, if you click under user assessment, we have this new entry here with user profiles. So first of all, you get an overview of what are the profiles that you have in your databases, how many databases have that profile, how many users do you have in each profile. And as you can see in our demo environment here, most users are assigned to the default profile. So I can check then also what the default profile looks like. You see here all the characteristics of the profile, how many allowed failed logins attempts you have, if you have a password complexity check here, certain password rules that have to be passed, inactivity periods, account logout periods, and so on. They're all listed here. And you also see in which database you have that. And if you select one of those databases, then you also see which database users are assigned to this database. So here you get the list as well. And you can do that obviously for all the profiles. We also have a different view here on the targets, where for each target, we show you exactly what are the profiles that you have. And if you're interested in just a single target database, then you can do the same thing we did earlier, where you can just filter for a certain database. Now you get at a glance, what are those profiles for my database? How many users do I have? Yes, that's here on the last column. So we see the default profile that we looked at. I also see I have a profile here for the power user. So let's check that out. And here again, you get then, the details of that profile here, with the details here on top under password parameters. And then you also see which users are assigned to this profile. This is one way of looking at the data. Obviously, this is under user assessment. So we also integrated that with our typical user assessment that you might know of. So if I look at the user assessment report here for my database, then obviously I get the list of all my users with their potential risk to the security of my data. And then if you check any of those users, I think we've seen Bettina before here. So if you click on that, then we added that now also here, that you see what user profile is assigned to this user on the details page, but you also see it here under user profile. You also get an info on which users are assigned to which profile here. Okay, so really trying to help you or give you something so that you can really understand, what are the password attributes in your user profiles, which users are assigned to them, and so that you can make changes as necessary. Then switching gears to discovery and masking. So for discovery and masking, we have introduced a lot of smaller enhancements, I would say. One that it's really helpful here is helping you really explore if you have any large sensitive data models or masking policies. And when I say large, we're talking, hundreds of columns, or you might even have thousands of columns. So previously, we already had filter capabilities, but let's say you had hundreds of columns in your sensitive data model. If you wanted to really understand, which schemas, which tables where we found sensitive information in which columns, you had to do a lot of scrolling, a lot of paging, or you could use the filters. But obviously, if you want to use the filters, you already need to know what you're looking for. And now what we've integrated here is kind of an explorer. So we give you a drop down of all the schemas that are included where we found sensitive information in the sensitive data model here. Once you select a schema, we show you exactly the tables for the schema that are included in our sensitive data model here. You can then either further filter by the columns, or you can just look at all the columns here in that table, and really helps you understand more, what my sensitive data model looks like. And then especially we included here also the in place actions. So if you then see something where you're like, oh, I don't want to have that in my sensitive data model, you can remove it from here. If you have to change the sensitive type, you can change it right here in place. You don't have to scroll through the entire sensitive data model. And we've done this enhancements for the sensitive data model as well as for the masking policy. So for both of them, this is now available. Another small enhancement, or not so small enhancement actually, we've done is on the sensitive data model. So I already talked about, we have a comprehensive report that shows you sensitive data access in the audit reports. But now if you're looking at a specific sensitive data model, what we've done now is also we integrated here the activities. So if you are on a sensitive data model, and let me just go there and show you. So if I go back here to to data discovery, and let me choose a sensitive data model. I created one on Tuesday night. So yeah, here it is. Let's use that one. So here now for my specific database, I get I have the information now where sensitive information was found, in which schema, which table, which column, what type of sensitive information was found, and so on. So now here, what we added is this last column where it says view activity. And what you can do now is if you click on that, what it does, it goes through all the audit records you have collected in DataSafe, and it's checking specifically for the sensitive object. So we're checking here on the table level. So now you can see here where or who has accessed the employee table, HCM1 employee table in this specific database, and you get those records here. And then, as you know, you can always, find more details in each audit record. You can go into the details. You can look at the let me scroll down here. You can look at the SQL statement that they issued, etc. So this is if you want to know exactly what has happened for specific sensitive objects as part of your SCM. I also mentioned earlier that we have this new report, so I can also switch back here to the audit reports. And as you can see, we have the sensitive data activity report here. So if you open that up, that now checks for sensitive data access across all your databases, across all the sensitive objects that you have identified as part of data discovery. And then you can look at that. So the employee tables we just looked at, we're also seeing that admin looked here at the locations table, for instance. $admin, this is all our DataSafe service account, but you can always add your own filters here and say, hey, I'm interested in everything, but let's say the database user that is $admin, I'm not so interested in that one or so. So you can add your own filters as you would like them to be. And then you can also create that as a custom report and save your findings here. You can even schedule that so that you have that, maybe downloaded every week or every other week or so. Staying with discovery and masking. Now think about, you have done the sensitive data discovery, you have a sensitive data model. Now something is changing in your application. You might have a new release coming out, and that might have changed something on the data dictionary. There might have been new tables introduced, new columns of existing tables, or maybe some columns or tables were removed. So what you're then doing typically is you do an incremental discovery where we show you those changes. You can adapt your sensitive data model. And now we made it easier to use this updated sensitive data model and synchronize it with your masking policy. So if you ever have that case, now what you can do in your existing masking policy, if you scroll down on the left, you see now we can compare it with the sensitive data model that we used originally to create the masking policy. We see now here the changes compared to our sensitive data model. So as you can see here, there was a new column introduced on the sensitive data model. We had some columns that were deleted from our sensitive data models. We also had one column that was modified here. And if you click on the little icon, you also see what was modified for that column. For instance, here the sensitive data type has changed. And then what you can do here is you can then say, which of those changes do you want to apply to your masking policy? So by default, we would sync all these changes, but you now have the possibility to take out certain columns that you don't want to sync. And then you're saving those actions. And then once you're done with your review, you're just syncing it to the policy here. And we're doing those changes for you. Also, what we're doing, if you introduce a new column, we're automatically assigning a masking format for that new column, and you can review it here and make additional changes as necessary. One more thing that we've done on the, and I think I skipped a slide. Oh yeah, I did skip one, sorry for that. So we also opened up now the, what we call the advanced masking options in DataSafe. They are now available on the UI, and you can make changes as necessary. Beforehand, DataSafe would pick what we thought were the best configuration here for your masking job. But now we give you the options also to make changes. One of the biggest enhancements here, I think, is that you now, during a masking run, you can provide us the table space that we should use for temporary objects that are created during the masking. Beforehand, we would just use the default table space of the DataSafe service account. But if you now want to create a table space specifically for masking, you can do that during the masking run. You let us know which one to use. The other masking options, as you can see here, typically we disable the redo logs during a masking run, but you can also uncheck that if you want to have redo logs. Parallel execution, if you don't say anything, then DataSafe finds the best degree of parallel execution, depending on, let's say, the available CPUs, etc. But you can also let us know how much parallel execution you would like to do. You can let us know if you want to recompile invalid objects after the masking run. Typically, we would drop temporary tables that are created during masking. You can also unselect that. And then also, if you want to refresh the statistics after masking, yes or no. So we had a lot of customers who wanted to have a little bit more flexibility for their masking run and, decide themselves on those masking options. So you can do that. There are two things where you can configure those masking options. So when you create a masking policy, you can already define those options here for the masking policy. And then every time we're using that policy for a masking run, we're pulling it from there. And then for a specific masking run, you can still make changes. You can change those masking options, even if they were preset in the masking policy level. Depending on the hardware where your masking run is running on, you might want to change the level of parallel execution, etc. And then one more thing that is good to know if you're using masking, we have tightened our masking authorizations, so really making it really secure so that nobody can, by accident mask a mask a target database that they didn't intend to mask. So what we did is we introduced a new authorization check. So we're now checking that whoever is running masking has a manage on the DataSafe masking report resource. And it has to, the user has to have this manage privilege in the compartment of the target database. So if you used masking and you didn't do a granular granting of those DataSafe masking resources, but you granted the DataSafe masking family, then you don't have to do anything specifically because DataSafe masking report is part of the DataSafe masking family. But if that was not the case, then really make sure, whoever is executing the masking run has this capability or this grant. And then another small change we did was, I think most customers were just using it there anyway, but we create the masking report in the compartment of the target database. So that's also why the manage privilege has to be given on that compartment. Previously, it was created in the compartment of the masking policy, which might be different than your than your target database. Then we also introduced a couple of smaller operational enhancements. So for an Exadata clouded customer, typically when you registered it, we would use the default listener port. We had a customer specifically asking for that. They wanted to be able to have or to be able to change the listener ports for their database. So you can do that now as well. And the registration now also supports if you have a custom listener port. And then if you use DataSafe in some of your regions, you might remember that you had to enable DataSafe in all regions where you wanted to use it. That is no longer necessary. You can just register your first database, no enablement necessary anymore. And then the other thing we added is a new guided tour in DataSafe. And let me show you that as well. It's also embedded here as a video, but let me show you also here in DataSafe. So if you haven't used DataSafe and you haven't registered any target databases yet, then the tour starts automatically. If not, you find it here on our overview page. You can just start the tour here. It tells you more about DataSafe. Goes through the different features that we're providing here, explains the target registration wizards, and then really goes here feature by feature, introducing what each feature is doing, just to give you a little help in getting started and seeing, what might be of interest for you to use DataSafe or to get started in DataSafe. Good. Those are, I think, more or less all the enhancements we have introduced since beginning of this year. There is one more thing that I would like to bring to your attention, and that is a new LiveLab. So most of the times when I talk with customers, they also, we're showing them the UI, we're showing them all the capabilities we have in DataSafe. But a lot of times it's also, how do I now integrate DataSafe with other solutions or services that I might be using, right? How do I get audit records connected to my SCIM infrastructure that I already have set up, and so on. So we created a LiveLabs for that. So this is Rich already showed you the LiveLab fundamentals and also how to register an on-premises database. This is now the next one that we provided 2 months ago, where we're really showing you how you can use the DataSafe client interfaces. We have an example, for instance, with DataSafe with Oracle CLI commands here on how to download security assessments. And then because we're getting all these requirements or questions from customers about audit data, we also have here 2 labs that show you how to use the REST APIs for audit records in DataSafe, how you can copy your audit records to an object storage and then maybe pick it up from there with a SCIM solution, how to schedule automatically that your data is copied there with REST APIs, etc. And then the last lab, also very helpful because we get a lot of requests there as well, is DataSafe is emitting a lot of events. So they are showing up under the OCI events service. So if you have a configuration drift in your security assessment, if you have anything changing on your user assessment, if a certain job is running and you want to get notified when that's done. So for all these events, you can set up notifications. And the last lab really guides you through that process, how you can set up the OCI notifications, the rules, and so on to help you do that. Good. With that, we already did the demos as part of it. So let me just summarize. So with DataSafe, we really try to provide you with a simplified and central management for database security for all your Oracle databases, making sure it's easy to use, that you don't need any special security expertise, that you get immediate visibility into any risk we have found around the database configurations, the users accessing your data, and the data that you're storing in your database, and really following your best practices. If it's to check your security posture, or if it is to give you recommendations on, remediation steps you can take or measures you can take to increase the security posture. And if you want to learn more, obviously there's the DataSafe homepage, and our documentation is really detailed with step-by-step introductions. But I really also can just highlight the DataSafe LiveLabs that we have. The fundamentals workshop really goes through all the different features that we didn't talk, too much about today. We didn't have time. We focused more on the new enhancements, but this one really guides you through each feature, what you can do, how to set a baseline, how to, see the difference between the baseline you set and the new run. We're doing some changes there and so on. So really helpful information there.
Just a reminder, I put these links that Bettina's talking about on our GitHub repository. So you should be able to go to the QR code on your screen, or I've shared the link in the chat. I'm sorry you can't copy directly from the chat. It's disabled at a level above my head. Next month, we're going to talk about Key Vault and the new features coming out with the latest release of Oracle Key Vault. So that'll be Wednesday, June 14th. So please join us there. Again, you can find all these presentations on bit.ly/asktomdbsec.